The guest segment is brought to you by the Round Rock Express, the AAA affiliate of the Texas Rangers. Jeff, what's going on in Round Rock?
I tell you what's going on in Round Rock next week, John. Rangers today. The 28th is a Tuesday. El Paso's coming to town. It's Taco Tuesday, the 29th. As always, $1 hot dogs. Thursday, the 30th, it's Mental Health Awareness Night and Thirsty Thursday. And then on the 31st, Rangers today will be part of the festivities before the game. Not on the field, but we're going to set up and do a live show. It's also a fireworks night. On the first Saturday, we're also going to be there for that. It is the Nolan Ryan Hall of Fame 25th anniversary replica ring giveaway. We will be there. Come by and say hi to us. If you need more information, go to milb.com/round-rock.
Okay, guys, but joining us right now is one of my favorites all the time. He was one of my favorites when he was not retired. It's former Texas Ranger beat writer for MLB.com and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He covered the Rangers for 32 years. Now he's writing his memoirs for Rangers Today. And, man, he was up there the other night, and we had fun conversations. It's R Sullivan. TR, what's up, bud?
Hi, gang. Nice to see you. Nice of you guys to drop by for just a second.
Yeah, this technology, piece of cake.
Yeah, I mean, you guys just got here. I mean, it's great.
So you're a big TCU baseball fan all of a sudden.
Yes, they're playing in the conference tournament over at Globe Life Field, and my grandnephew, Zach Hoyer, is a reliever for him. And he was all Big 12, and they have a very good team. And they're trying to get to the tournament. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, I think the win today might have pushed them into a regional. I think they're in pretty good shape.
Well, I mean, that's beyond me. I mean, I haven't covered college baseball in my life, and all of a sudden now I'm a big TCU fan, and bracketology to me used to be college basketball and the University of San Francisco, and the only thing I knew about bracketology was the University of San Francisco had no chance. But now I think TCU, they got a good baseball team. I mean, Kirk Salas has done a great job over there. I know he's followed a legend over there. You know what happened last year? They went to the College World Series, so it's a lot of fun to watch. They got a good team. They're playing hard, and we'll see what happens tomorrow when I go out there at like 6 a.m. and they play like I think the first game's like at 9 a.m. So
9 a.m. Yeah. I don't know.
It's more fun when you got family playing. So that's even more fun.
You know what? It's more fun. I have to tell you this guys, and I love my great nephew. But it's just fun to watch a game without having to worry about notes and deadlines and who you're going to have to cover and what Jeff Wilson is writing and whatever Grant is writing, and it's great when covering baseball game. I don't have Jeff Wilson on my left and Evan Grant on my right. I really enjoy that. It's a lot of fun, So I mean, it's just a lot of fun to watch. A lot of fun to watch baseball without having to worry about a deadline.
Yeah, it is. It is good. You've been hitting your deadlines though for Rangers Today. You've been diligent here about the project you talked about initially in the off season, the Boys of Arlington, based on the Boys of Summer, the great book. Where did that obviously was your genesis, but where did you what motivated you to do this for us?
There's a lot of baseball players who play for the Rangers that I feel, Jeff, that I want to write about. I mean, I just want to write about these guys and what my feelings about these players are. I mean, and Jeff, you know about this, and John, you know about it a little bit, but I mean, forgive me for saying, but Jeff knows about this. We live with these guys. Yeah. We have strong feelings about these guys. I just kind of want to, I'm retired. I don't have a lot to do. I got a little job at night, but that's insignificant. But I just want to write about these guys and just. And I told Jeff sent me a link to Elvis Andrus and said, here's his number. And I'm like, I'm not going to call these guys. I really am not going to call these guys. I just want to write my feelings on these guys. And Jeff has been great. It's been fantastic for me. I hate this word, but a catharsis, just to write about these guys and what I feel about them and what I remember about them. And, I don't know how long this is going to last, but I'm going to keep doing it until I run out of. But the problem is Jeff knows, I start writing about these guys, late at night, and I just keep going, and I don't edit anything. I mean, basically, I write everything I remember about these guys, and I send it to Jeff. He's like, I'm sure Jeff's like, we could edit this out, we could edit this out, we could edit this out, but no, this is what I remember about it. Here you go. If you want it, publish it.
Listen, let me say this. I come at this, so Jeff comes at this like TR did. You guys came in and covered this team. You didn't grow up here. You weren't from this area. You of course root for these guys you cover, so it's to do that. But you don't really have skin in the game. I grew up a Texas Ranger fan. This is some of my favorite stuff I've ever read is what you're doing right now, TR, because I grew up a fan of the Texas Rangers. All these stories you're writing in your memoirs, I'm telling you, I've told Jeff this 100 times. When this is done, we got to turn it into a book because it would be one of the greatest books.
I'm great. Everybody wants me to write a book, but nobody works for Doubleday or Scribner or anybody. Nobody else works on Madison Avenue. So it's great that everybody says, "Oh, we're going to write this in a book." I said, "Well, do you work in New York?" No. Great, thanks.
Well, we could self-publish. We could self-publish, TR.
We can.
Oh, I did that once. Look, really, I just want this out there. I'm just putting this out there, and I just want to put this out there because I feel like putting it out there. And my wife does a lot of crafting. We're both retired. She does card making and she does needlework, and we're both sitting here just doing stuff just for the fun of it. And Jeff is one of my all-time favorite people, and he's got a website, and I want to help his website. And, it's kind of a mutual relationship. He publishes it, and I give him a little content, and it's kind of fun.
Speaking of the website, it's $5.99 a month or $60 for the year for those who want to subscribe. So, TR,
it's well worth it.
You've done 6 Boys of Summer. Incaviglia was a 2-parter. I think my favorite one has been Charlie Huff.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah, he seemed like a hoot. He just seemed like a fun guy to cover.
They all were fun to cover, and they all were a pain in the ass to cover. I mean, seriously, I had good times with all of them, and I had bad times with all of them. And here's the bottom line: I'm going to say a blanket statement, and Jeff will probably agree with me. When you just talk to these guys when there's no pressure on, when the heat's not on, it's you just get them out there and you talk to them. They're great guys. But it's when the regular season and they've lost 5 in a row, and they're 0 for 26, or they've given up 30 earned runs in their last 30 innings. Then they get to be a little prickly. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's to be understood because sure. Baseball is a huge thing. There's a lot of money at stake. There's a lot of prestige at stake. Your reputation. I mean, it's like Ruben said, your numbers are at stake. So I know what these guys are kind of doing. And the one thing I learned was, and Jeff knows this, in spring training, everybody's a great guy. You go to spring training, they're all great.
Except for Keone Kela.
Yeah, Keone Kela. And then once a bell rings and the season starts, I mean, that's one thing I learned in 32 years. Well, I learned a lot of things in 32 years. But when the bell rings and the season starts, they all change. They're not so relaxed and having fun, and it's not like you can goof around and joke with them. The game, the regular season's on and everything's on the line, and they just change. It's just a different thing. Spring training is totally different from the regular season.
It's where you get to really know them. I mean, they are more open. I mean, look, I've only done this 5 years. They don't see me. I don't cover them the way as in depth as you guys do. But yeah, when I went to spring training for the first time, and then going the last 5 years with Jeff or 3 years with Jeff or whatever, this is where you really get to meet the guys. They're a little more open. They're fighting for their jobs. Don't get me wrong. Some of them aren't, but they are more fun to talk to. But yeah, it's a different atmosphere once the season kicks.
Well, and then during the season they get tired because they're playing every day. They're sore. I mean, we get 45 minutes now. We don't know what's going on the other 6 hours before a game. They're getting treatments. They're eating. They're taking naps. They don't. There's a lot we don't see. So they're dealing with us. So it's understandable if sometimes they're prickly. But the thing that I like the most, I appreciate the most, is when a starting pitcher or a reliever is at his locker after a game.
Yeah,
that makes our job easier. But it's a professional thing to do. It's a good teammate thing to do. And Andrew Heaney's been great. Obviously, I'm not in Philadelphia today, but after his last start, he was sitting there waiting for us. It's kind of a
Derek Holland was like that. Rick Helling, Colby Lewis, Nolan Ryan, Charlie Huff. I mean, yeah, but I mean, among players, Elvis Andrus was always around. Nelson Cruz was always around. Guys I like. People I've written about. Will Clark was always there. Michael Young, no questions asked.
right.
A lot of guys were. Most of the guys were. 95% of these guys were.
Sure.
I mean, there were a few guys who were prickly, like I said, or I don't think Jeff was there with Milton Bradley, but
I was, yeah.
Were you
there?
there?
That was my first year. Yeah.
Oh, Milton Bradley, yeah. I mean, guys like that, it's like, all right. But you know what the funny thing is, John, is that, these guys I remember this, they show up and I'm like going, it's like from the movie The Natural when Robert Duvall goes up to Robert Redford, says, they come and they go, Hobbs, they come and they go. And, all these guys, it's amazing. I think about all these guys, Jose Canseco and Yu Darvish, and, well, I don't want to, just all the guys, they all came and they left, I outlasted most of them. I think I outlasted all of them, as a matter of fact. But, there really was times when I would interview guys and there'd be prickling. I'm going, okay, another year you'll be gone. See you later. It's like, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you'd get along with Nathaniel Lowe. His dad has the military background. He bounced around a little bit, kind of like you as a military brat. I don't know. I think you don't hate anybody. I mean, you would like them all. They're just a bunch of good guys. Dang it!
I got along with people joke with me. Say, boy, TR, you liked everybody, and I take pride in the fact that I did. Like we were talking about the other night, when I got older, it was a little tougher for me because these guys are like 20, 30 years younger than me. But when I was in my prime, I got along with everybody. I mean, I was fine with everybody. Just when I got older, it just kind of got a little tougher on me.
Okay, so
go ahead.
Well, I was saying on the boys of Arlington, the first one was Elvis, and I didn't realize that Elvis had impacted you that way, because Elvis so far is the only player that you've written about that I was there the same amount of time as you, and that one it kind of I mean, I remember the Frank Sinatra thing, and but that one kind of surprised me. I didn't realize that he had meant that much to you.
Yes, Elvis means a lot to me. Here's the thing about Elvis, Jeff, is that, let me say this. You get a Latin American player, and I wrote about Ruben today, and I've written about Nelson, but sometimes Latin players that come in here and they have the language barrier, and they throw up a little bit of a front, and suddenly they get a little defensive. Elvis never did. Elvis was always Elvis.
Right.
Elvis was always there for me, and you and Evan and everybody. and he'd never lost that youthful exuberance. Do you agree?
I agree, 100%.
That,
Yes.
he was just from the beginning to the end, and all these guys they all changed a little bit, but Elvis was always the same way, and I could always count on Elvis. And yeah, Elvis, I have to say, and Rusty Greer and I are great friends, and I love Rusty and Bobby Witt. Everybody knows Bobby Witt, what he means to me, and all these guys. But there's just something about Elvis being a Latin American player who I never lost a connection with. And I remember one time. Here's what I remember. I remember one time that Ron pulled him out of a game. You remember this, Jeff? I think you do. And he pulled him out of the game, and I'm like, okay, is Elvis going to be a jerk? Is he going to be pissed off? How's he going to react to this? Is he going to be defensive? And Elvis was great. He said, I messed up. It was my fault. I'll do better. And he didn't like get mad at the media. Like, all right, they're picking on me. Anytime Elvis messed up and the media wrote about it, he didn't say, oh, they're picking on me because I'm Latin, because I speak Spanish, or this or that. Elvis just said, okay, I screwed up. We'll go on.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just something, and you have to remember, I dealt with Latin American players for 32 years, and I try to treat them with respect. Juan Gonzalez and I were great. Sierra and I had a good relationship. Pudge, but there's just something about Elvis that I just think that he was just fantastic.
He was. And then 2008, that was the year after the trade, or the spring after the trade, and he was in big league camp, and we had my wife was there, and we had gone to, of all places, the Olive Garden, and we were getting some food, and Elvis walked in, and he was getting a to-go order, and he was all by himself, and my wife said, "Oh, I feel so sorry for him," and I was like, You don't need to feel sorry for Elvis. Elvis is going to be just fine. I'm sure he's got plenty of friends lined up to go and hang out with tonight. And that's just the way he was. I mean, everybody liked him.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking about him in the past tense. Yeah, I know he's not in the game right now, but shoot, he's
No.
35, I think, 36.
Yeah.
And it's and he meant so much to those teams early on with his speed.
Oh yeah. Yeah, with Elvis was a very good shortstop. And the problem with Elvis was back then, they had a lot of young shortstops back then. And they're all going to be the next Derek Jeter. All of them were going to be the next Derek Jeter.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like going, Elvis is not going to be the next Derek Jeter. But he was the beeping shortstop on 2 World Series teams. Leave him alone. I mean, this guy is playing at a high level. Now, I know, and I feel bad about this. I feel terrible about it. He had that one bad game, that one terrible game in Toronto. We all remember.
Yep.
I mean, that was just so unlike him.
Right.
Bobbled the ball. Yeah.
Bobbled 3 balls.
Yeah.
And he was there, but he was there at his locker. You talk about being in his locker. He was there at his locker after that game, talking about it. Okay. And I'm not gonna go soft on this point. Cal Ripken is Cal Ripken. But Cal Ripken spent a lot of time in the training room when writers wanted to talk to him. Okay,
Yeah.
Cal Ripken spent a lot of time in the training room when there were writers who wanted to talk to him. But Elvis was out there talking to us. So I don't want to hear about this Cal Ripken is God thing. I don't. I'm serious. No, I'm serious. Cal Ripken, and I've talked to the writers about this, and I think I mentioned this in the Ruben Sierra story. Cal Ripken is not all that highly regarded by those who covered him. He's not. But Elvis was, that day when he made those 2 errors, Elvis was right there at his locker explaining it away.
Yeah, he was. And he'd had some, it was, I remember him coming to the locker, and it had been a tough 30 minutes, let's say, and the way the game turned out. And it was a tough one for him, for sure. But great. And then I kind of knew about Pete Incaviglia, who you wrote about. That
was great.
Kind of compared the hype, the Wyatt Langford hype, to the Pete Incaviglia hype, and you said it's not even close.
No. And you guys have seen it. And I thought about this, and I was going to write about this in spring training. Wyatt Langford. I'm sorry.
No,
I hope he's all right. But I'm like going, guys. He was in the beeping minor leagues for a month.
Yep.
All of a sudden, he's in the opening day lineup, and everybody thinks he's the natural. It doesn't work that way, and It didn't work that way with Pete Incaviglia.
No, Pete Incaviglia, when he came in, and you got to remember, I'm a fan, so I was there, and when Pete came in, I was in my right around 20 years old, so I wasn't a kid. The hype about him, it was a big deal that he was going to make that team out of spring training, and he was not going to go to the minor leagues. That was huge. But you got to remember, the College World Series was a different animal back then, and we were watching these Oklahoma State games where he was knocking the ball. Of course, he used those bats. They don't use them anymore, but he killed the ball, and he was knocking the ball out of everywhere. And man, they were talking about him in spring training. What they were talking about, how he was hitting the ball in Port Charlotte. He almost knocked the fence down. You wrote about it in that deal where, it was a little exaggerated, but he hit that line drive into the fence and almost knocked it over. But it was huge. We were at opening day that year, and we were expecting Pete Incaviglia to hit 80 home runs. He was going to break. It was huge.
Yeah, back then in '86, you got to remember. The Rangers were terrible. 82, 83, 84. They had 4 very, very, very bad losing seasons, and they had nothing going on. They had Bobby Valentine that kind of created some excitement, and they were in this youth movement. And this is the year that they had a great year. They won 87 games after 4 really horrible seasons.
Yep.
But on opening day, nobody knew about that. But when he knocked that ball through the fence, everybody wrote about it. Everybody's like, this was. And you got to remember, as I wrote about this, the movie The Natural had come out like 2 years earlier.
Yeah, where you hit the lights.
It came out like in '84, and now here's Pete Incaviglia, and Jim Reeves, who I love, is writing about this. They're all going overboard. He knocked the ball through the fence. They're big headlines. So the Rangers were like, "Oh yeah, they're John Blake. He's playing this up big time." And they had a great season, and Pete had a good year. Unfortunately, that was his best year.
Yeah.
But that was pretty funny.
It was interesting because I looked up when I was editing it. I looked up the Rookie of the Year vote that year.
Yeah,
Incaviglia did not receive a vote, but Ruben Sierra got 1 third place vote.
Yeah, who won it that year? I can't even remember.
Was it Canseco?
Probably, yeah.
That was right about the time that Oakland was getting real good.
But Incaviglia had superior numbers to Sierra. Sierra didn't play the whole year, but still, Incaviglia had really pretty good numbers. And
he was a good player. Just you got to remember, back Arlington Stadium was not a place where you want to be a hitter. Arlington Stadium was a pitcher's ballpark.
Yeah.
If Incaviglia had played in the ballpark in Arlington, he would have done much better. He'd done much better. But there's just so much pressure. So much pressure on him and attention on him, and and I thought about that. I said, Wyatt Langford, this kid is. I don't. There's just too much expectation on these kids. Mike Trout played a lot more in the minor leagues, not a whole lot, but I think you got to have a full year in the minor leagues. Juan Gonzalez played like 3 or 4 years in the minor leagues, and then before he ended up getting here. So I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said about playing in the minor leagues.
Well, Mike Trout got called up and got sent down in 2011. He came up and didn't do real well, and he got sent back down. So. Wyatt, I think, is in Arizona right now. I know he's in Arizona right now, doing a rehab assignment there. He might be ready now for some games. And then he was thinking that when they come back from this trip that he might be activated. So I don't know.
It wouldn't hurt.
I think some AAA time would do him some good.
These guys are talented. Like you watch the game today. The catch that Evan Carter made today was fantastic. So,
Sure.
so you guys know that these guys are talented, but you got to have experience. To me, experience is the best teacher. I don't
Yep.
care if you're a baseball player or you're a ball writer. It took me 4 or 5 years before I became a very good ball writer. And I watched Jeff. I watched a lot of these young guys, and it takes them a while to learn the ropes. It does. I mean,
No doubt about it.
you know, and you just need that time. And I'm a real believer in minor league time. I've just seen too many guys come here. John Daniels and I went around this. I mean, Jeff remembers the time when John Daniels told me to go screw myself. When I said, "Oh," John Daniels said, "We're not going to rush this guy," and I said, "Well, that'll be a change." And John just says, "Oh, go screw yourself." We didn't say screw, but then he brought up Chichi. What
Rodriguez. Yeah, or
Chichi
not Rodriguez.
Gonzalez.
he brought him up
Gonzalez. Yeah,
too
the
fast,
pitcher.
and like Chichi Gonzalez, this guy was the number one pick. This guy's your number one pick. Okay, you invested a couple $1 million, and Chichi Gonzalez all he had was a sinking fastball. So he came up here for a couple of games, and that sinking fastball blew everybody away. But you know what? They got advanced scouts, they got a video, and they got smart hitters. So you need a breaking ball, you need a changeup, and once you get that, then you could be a big league pitcher. Kevin Brown, we talked about this the other day. Kevin Brown was the best pitcher the Rangers ever developed. All he had was a sinker. And he had to go back to the minor leagues. He developed a slider, and he developed a changeup, and he became a really good pitcher. You can't come up here with one pitch.
Nope.
So anyway, my point, all of this getting off track, is with Wyatt Langford. You got to develop a complete game. With a hitter, he can hit a fastball. Great. Can he hit a breaking ball? No. Well, that's all he's going to face.
Yep.
Right.
Well, you'd have thought that I would have said Evan Carter was a bust, because I said coming into this year, I expected a natural regression, because exactly what you said a while ago, TR, he's going to have a full year of advanced scouts, video. Teams are going to come in. He only came up for the stretch run at the end and the playoffs. They hadn't really seen him. And now they're going to have a book on him. And he's going to face it, and he's got to work his way through it. And regressing some does not mean he's a bust. It means you go through a year.
And the other thing is, what the hell is this Baker Brothers crap? All right, he's on TV doing commercials for Baker Brothers. I'm sorry, but Evan Carter does not need to be doing Baker Brothers commercials. That's just bull crap. You don't have young players doing commercials. I mean, he's on after Channel 8 right before Jimmy Kimmel, and we're getting ready to watch Jimmy Kimmel. I have to watch Evan Carter talking about Baker Brothers. No. End of discussion.
Maybe we need to call Baker's Brothers, see if they'll sponsor our show.
Yeah, no
Baker
kidding.
Baker Brothers, we use Baker Brothers, but Evan Carter does not need to be doing Baker Brothers commercials. That's
Hey, before we get him out of
baloney.
here, Jeff, before we get him out of here. So this is one of the things I want to start doing. Every time we had TR on, and he's going to start coming on with us more, guys, because it's too much fun. We're going to go into one of your stories, and we're going to bring up something that I didn't know, and I'm going to go back to your very first one. And I want to talk about this. I am a guy that grew up 74, first year I ever went to a Ranger game. I was 6 years old. Went and been coming ever since. I've been to opening days all my life. I've done it all. The story I've always heard is Bob Short, Washington Senators, grabbed the team. Vandergriff got him, brought him down. That was it. I did not realize before Bob Short brought the Senators here, there were almost two other teams that came to Texas, and that story was captivating to me. Nolan Ryan could have played for the Rangers as a 20-year-old or 22-year-old or whatever, and you also had the Oakland A's. Tell us the story about that.
I need to write a book about this because, okay.
There was a senator or something, right?
What?
Wasn't there a senator or a congressman that was blocking things for the Astros or something?
Yeah. so basically so one of my things that I love is I love the history of where teams ended up today. Because there's what do we got, Jeff? 30 teams now.
Yes.
Every
Yeah.
team has a huge backstory on how they ended up being there. It's fascinating to me. All right, so in 1969, Major League Baseball was going to expand, and the National League wanted to expand into Arlington, and instead of San Diego. But back then, you had a separate National League and an American League. They're totally different entities. The National League had their own agenda, and the American League had their own agenda. They're two separate leagues. They're not combined like they were today. So the National League wanted to expand into Arlington, and Roy Hoffines, who's the Astros owner, said no. They can't go into Arlington. We want Texas. Texas is our field. You know, nobody else could be in Texas but us, which is a stupid thing because we're 5 hours away. So anyway, the Padres ended up in San Diego instead of Texas. So that's how the Rangers had to wait 3 more years before the Senators came here.
Well, who was like so that the A's were in negotiations to move here too? This is when they were what were they moving to Oakland from Kansas City or when was that? And they almost
All right, so the A's were in Kansas City, and Charlie Finley was the owner. This is back in '67, and he had to get out of Kansas City. He had pissed off Kansas City, and Kansas City pissed off him. So he was leaving Kansas City in '67, and his spots were Dallas, Fort Worth, Seattle, and Oakland. Well, Oakland was the only place that had a major league facility, the Coliseum. Coliseum opened in '66, and they had the Raiders there, and they had roller derby. They had the Bay City Bombers, Charlie O'Connell, the Babe Ruth of roller derby. So Charlie Finley had his choice between Seattle, Dallas, and Oakland, and he decided to go to Oakland. The other thing was the American League wanted a team in the Bay Area because the Giants were in the Bay Area, and the Oakland the American League wanted a team in the Bay Area, and Joe Cronin, who was the American League president, was from San Francisco. Okay, he was from Mission High School in San Francisco, not far from where Jeff and I used to drink. So anyway, he wanted the A's in Oakland so he could have a team in the Bay Area. So that's why they did not go to and back then all we had was Arlington Stadium, which was a piece of crap.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a piece of crap for 16 years for a major league team. But anyway, the A's in 1967 had their choice, and because Oakland had the stadium, because Joe Cronin was where Jeff and I used to drink, that's why they ended up in Oakland. Yeah.
Now, what about the Mets? They thought about moving at one time, and Arlington or DFW was a place that they looked at.
No, the Mets. No. The Mets were never coming here.
Okay, so that's what I thought. I didn't realize because you. Okay, so I did hear Finley was coming here, and then it ended up with Bob Short. But Bob Short at first ran into some static, right? They were with the Astros were still throwing up a little bit of funk there, trying to, and then he threatened to sue or something. Was that right, or something like that?
Oh, everybody was trying to sue everybody. Okay, none of these. There's never been a Major League Baseball team that ever moved without a threat of a lawsuit. I mean, but basically, he couldn't stop them. And basically, Lyndon Johnson was involved in all this crap. And I mean, Lyndon Johnson went to bat for Arlington and said, no, let him go. And basically, Hoffines could stop the National League team, but he could not stop the American League team.
There you go.
There you go. It was great. You guys go back if you've not read TR's memoirs. He's got a whole link on the website, and you can go back. It started all the way back when Rangers Today started. It's the first one he ever wrote.
I think the first one was actually about the Bay
the World Series.
The Bay Bridge World Series.
Oh yeah. Okay, all right. I'm mixing those up in my head.
But yes, I mean, and that's a great story. That's a great story too.
That's another one too. We're going to talk about that another time. So,
but the second story was, and the one I wanted to get on record, and I greatly appreciate Jeff Wilson, because there's a lot of stuff I want on record that I wrote, and the one thing I'm most proud of is I wrote a complete story about how it was a 3-parter. God bless Jeff. He had to sit there and he had to edit like 3,000 words, like 9,000 words. But I wanted to put in there how the Rangers ended up in Arlington, and I believe I've written a definitive story about how they ended up here in Arlington.
It is the most thorough thing I've ever read about it, and I consider myself a longtime fan who thought he knew everything. I'm telling you, I was captivated by it the whole time. I was like, holy shit, I did not realize all this crap was going on. I didn't realize.
That's the great thing about Jeff and I and this whole project is I'm just putting stuff down on paper or on the internet, and I just want to put this down there. Hey, this is what really happened. This is my version of it. It's out there. If anybody wants to argue, go ahead. But this is what I remember about Ruben Sierra. This is what I remember about Pete Incaviglia. And God bless my wife. I do this thing at 1:00 in the morning. My wife says, "Are you staying up?" I said, "Yes, I am." She says, "Okay, I'll see you in the morning." But I really like just putting this stuff down on, like I said, paper or on the internet, and just having it on record as saying, this is the way I remember it.
Well, we're looking forward to the next one. You don't have to tell us who it is right now, or even when it is. You can take a week off if you want. Take 2. I don't care. This is your deal, and you are retired.
Jeff, you remember? You know what the New World Symphony is?
Yeah.
Dun 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 dun. Dun. That's next.
Okay.
The New World Symphony is next.
Look forward to it.
All right, I can't wait. Hey, TR, thanks for coming on. I mean, we've eaten 36 minutes. We could have gone an hour easily. I mean, we could go 5 hours. Guys, I can't tell y'all, when TR came up the other night, he was coming up there to get something. He was getting his story together. He set up in the press box with Jeff and I. We sat there and talked more shit about baseball. I love it. I could just sit there and listen to it all night long. We got into the conversation about CJ Wilson and Kevin Brown, and you made great points. I put that out there the other day, and people argued back and forth, and I was like, are you looking at the numbers? CJ Wilson's numbers were as good as Kevin Brown's, if not better, for those years when they went to the World Series. You said he was the ace of the staff, and I tried to argue, and I went and looked and went, well, shit, TR knows what he's talking about.
He was definitely the ace. Yeah.
He was. I mean, I didn't remember it that way, and I went back and went, well, shit, he was too. He started 67 games over those 2 years, had a 2-point or a low 3 ERA. I mean, hats off. I mean, I didn't remember it that way. TR knew what the hell he was talking about.
There you go. All right.
All right, guys. Sorry we got off to a rough start, but I'm not very tech savvy, but I enjoyed it. You guys know where to reach me.
You got it. You're coming back on. We're going to do some live shows this year. You definitely got to come out for a beer and do that like you did. You came to the live show last time, but this time you're going to be part of the deal. We're going to get out there. He can sit around and we can get 4 or 5 guys and talk all kinds of – it'll just be fun.
Okay.
All right, that's R Sullivan.